Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a podcast brought to you by the Triad Network. This podcast is designed to share trending topics occurring within the world and our communities and bring them a behavioral and mental health perspective.
Welcome to Behavioral Health Today. I'm your host, Sharlee Dixon. My guest today is Rafael McMaster. Rafael is a creative director, artist, and youth mental health advocate dedicated to empowering young people through mindfulness, creativity, and emotional resilience. As the founder of Indivisible Arts, he leads a nonprofit that equips youth, especially those facing adversity, with practical tools for self-control and personal growth. After a successful career in the creative industry, including 5 years as a creative executive at Creative Artists Agency, Rafael shifted his focus to community impact, developing programs that blend artistic expression with mental wellness. His forthcoming book, Fundamental Life Tools, offers a hands-on toolkit designed to help teens cultivate emotional well-being and conscious decision-making. We're excited to have Rafael with us today to explore his personal journey and innovative approach to youth mental health through creativity and mindfulness, the core principles and impact of fundamental life tools, and his vision in empowering millions of teens with practical life skills. So, Rafael, thank you so much for coming on the show. Welcome.
Sharlee, so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, can you share a bit about your personal journey and what led you to founding Indivisible Arts?
Oh, wow. Pain, suffering, being a human. I don't know that my story is that different than the tens of millions of people out there that are doing their best and showing up every day and wondering, gosh, is there more to life than this? Because this feels unfulfilling. I don't know if my story is that different than a person who says, boy, my anxiety is crippling me. Is there someone out there that can help me? And that's really where my story began, in going to a psychiatrist at age 29, being riddled with anxiety. And now in retrospect, I really wish that he would have said, oh, you know what? Let me teach you about breath. I wish he would have said, you know what? Let me teach you about these tools of awareness and consciousness, radical acceptance and all this. But instead he said, you know what? Yeah, I've got you covered. Here's this prescription for Xanax, and sent me back out the door within 15 minutes. And I can't help but think, in fact, I know that that story is the same story that's told millions of times over. And that's the reason why I'm on this mission, is because I know that there are tens of millions of people out there that feel the same way that I do, that life can feel overwhelming. And the tools that are our human inner technology that are here to support us, these tools like acceptance or compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, connection, consciousness, awareness, these tools are available to us and for free, but I wasn't taught them as a kid. And I made it all the way through college and nobody laid these tools at my feet. And so as I began my mission in recovery, in transformation, I began capturing and cataloging all the best of going through cognitive behavior therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, EMDR, somatic, all the things, and saying, what is the best of the best that we can take from Eckhart Tolle and Jack Kornfield and Joe Dispenza and Brene Brown? And how do we take those and make them accessible to the common person or to the youth? I always shoot for, how can I explain this to an 11-year-old? Because if I can explain it to an 11-year-old, then I can effectively explain it to a 46-year-old who has the emotional intelligence of an 11-year-old. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I mean, so many of us are wandering out there trying to make it in the world without, support in the background of requisite development of social emotional tools. And so we're trying to do the best we can. But yeah. I was 35 the first time someone said to me, all those voices and thoughts in your head? I'm like, yeah, I got too many of them and they're battling each other. Can you help me? He says, those voices and thoughts, that's not you. What? No, you're the one watching the thoughts. You're the one having the thoughts. And it was like, in that moment, I could feel the ice begin to thaw. I felt this weight on my shoulders begin to transform in this realization. My goodness gracious, everything my brain has been saying, I have been taking that at face value as that's what my opinion is. I think this, I think that, we should do this, we shouldn't do that. Not realizing this entire time that those are just thought forms that are placed forward by my meat computer that is my brain for me to observe and get to choose amongst. And that began my journey of awakening and becoming the aware observer of my thoughts. As Eckhart Tolle would say, awareness, or as other teachers before would call it, mindfulness. Either way you call it. This youngest generation, they like to call it brain watching, mind watching, mind watching. In fact, one of them, for those that can see it, one of our youth illustrated this, right? And it's in our book, The Fundamental Life Tools, of an eye observing the thought forms of the brain. And to know that I'm not my thoughts, and to know that my thoughts are like programs. Oh, I hate homework. Okay. Boss says we hate homework. Make homework today really slow and terrible, and be complaining in the mind about it, because that's we're supposed to hate homework, is a completely different experience than, I hate homework. Wait, I am not that thought. I'm the one having the thought. I can change the thought to something that is authentically different. Authentically, I can say to myself, I'm grateful I have a free education. I'm grateful that I actually enjoy learning. I'm grateful because I'm going to go to college and this is stuff that I'm going to need to know. I'm grateful because when I'm done with this, then I can go out and hang out and do more fun stuff with my friends. And those 4 thought forms of gratitude create a tapestry that weaves a program that makes homework that day 30% less terrible. And if that's what we're doing, if I'm able to turn dials to change my perspective, to make my reality a little bit more enjoyable with each passing event, then please help me sign up for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as a a former public school social worker and a current mom of a preteen, I have heard so many times, "Oh, this is so horrible. Like I just don't want to do this." Not just about schoolwork, but just about many things in general. And so I was smiling really hard here when you were mentioning trying to help students become aware of that they are not those thoughts, or children or teens, young people, helping them be aware of that they are not those thoughts and that they can change them. And it really is the mindset that they, set forth moving forward. And speaking about, teens, young people, what do you see as the most pressing mental health challenges that are facing teens today? I mean, they experience things on a different level than any of us. I'm 42 today, so they experience things differently. They see more things. They have more exposure to so many things. And so, what do you see as the most pressing challenge that our youth have?
Well, first off, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing it together. My birthday is in 10 days. So hello, fellow
Oh,
Sagittarius. So,
yes, happy early birthday.
um, there's many different answers to this question that would be viable. The one that comes top of mind is is the phone. It's the phone. It's the phone. It's the phone. This weapon of
Mhm,
mass distraction.
mhm,
I mean, just the long-term effect of, the average American spending 8.5 hours a day on a screen. If you play that out across the average lifespan of 78 years, that's 27 and a half years on a screen. So we'll just
Wow.
start with that. Additionally, the neurology of addiction does not distinguish as to whether or not it was a screen or alcohol or cocaine
Mm,
that is making the addictive neurological wiring, right? And so when someone takes the same neurological pathway over and over and over again, what was a river or a creek before becomes a canyon. And then, and it's described and explained as cross addiction. When a person has built this canyon, has dug this canyon, but they no longer do this behavior, then another behavior goes in there and they're off to the races on that. So there's a lot of people who are, let's say, are, alcoholics. They stop drinking. Next thing you know, they're addicted to sugar, or
mhm,
addicted to something positive like running. And next thing you know, they're a marathon runner, but it's called a habit, right? But they're
yeah.
really actually turning their addictive nature towards something different. Well, anybody who owns a phone and has been participating with the phone is going to have the addictive neurological wiring. And all of a sudden, we have a generation that's more impulsive, compulsive, loop-based, addictive in their behavioral patterns. And maybe it's a phone right now, but all of a sudden they have their first drink, or they have their first toke, or whatever it is. And all of a sudden they're off to the races and they have a predisposition to addiction, but they don't know. That
Mm,
to me feels perilous. Additionally, with the phone, the long-term downstream implications of porn being available to an entire generation. I'll focus this mostly towards the young men, right? To the young men growing up with access to all of that stuff on their phone, growing up creating a completely unhealthy and distorted relationship between them and the opposite sex.
Absolutely.
The long-term impact of that, I don't think we can even begin to comprehend, but what I do know is just as much as the problem being ubiquitous, the phones being ubiquitous, is that solutions as well are universal. And we don't need to be taught the power of love to be able to feel its immensity, right? So this has me extremely hopeful, because never in the history of the world has there been a time where ideas of, thought forms of positive social uplift can be spread now more like wildfire, now more than any time in the history of the world, right? And so if this idea of 6-7 can spread like crazy and it doesn't even mean anything, if it can spread that wild in just a couple months, then, intellectual contagions that act as programs for social uplift and consciousness, I feel very, very hopeful and excited that these can spread equally quick. And what we're seeing here in this mission and this movement down here in SoCal in Southern California, we're seeing dozens, if not now hundreds of youth becoming conscious, becoming the aware observer of their thoughts, and seeing a shift in their mindset, in their being. And that shift in mindset where all of a sudden a person is confident and courageous and curious and calm and creative, conscious and connected, sailing these 7 seas. The others see that and they say, ooh, what's that? This person's aura, they've got something going on. I want that. And it becomes aspirational to become conscious. That to me has me deeply excited and hopeful.
Absolutely. So then my question now is, what makes Indivisible Arts different? Like how do you approach supporting youth, and how is it so unique that it is having such a positive impact on the youth?
Yeah. So our mission originally as a 501c3 was, to ensure that our small little beach town of Hermosa Beach, California had an art gallery in it. Check. To make sure that all the local students had access to art materials and art tutelage. Check. In part because there was no art teacher in the local elementary schools, and my daughter was a second grader at the time, and I'm like, that will not do. Check on those boxes. But then the pandemic happened, and the nature and the depth of our mission completely transformed, particularly when we began seeing a couple local tragedies of local youth going, okay, hold up. This generation is going to need as many tools as they can get, and tools that are taught to them in a resonant way. So if we look at all the classics and all the great knowledge and wisdom that's out there, from Alan Watts to Carl Gustav Jung to Socrates, there's so much great stuff out there. But being able to deliver it in a way where youth can hear it, that's the thing, making it accessible. And so we embarked on our mission of co-creating this curriculum with them every step of the way. And so whether it's their illustrations, these mandalas, I'll give a shout out to Eva Asadow, who hopefully hears this one day, right? She drew this when she was maybe 17 or 18. The book is full of them. And for a bunch of them, there's other illustrations by Fiona Dowdy. She's another one of our young emerging artists. These mandalas, a handful of them, Eva would sit with the energy of the tool, whether it be gratitude, compassion, connection, and sit with that energy of that tool and be focused just on the energy of that tool while hand drawing this, while hand illustrating these mandalas, so that the inner geometry of the energy of that tool is embedded into the coding of this thing, so that when another person is sitting there coloring it, they're participating in the specific energetic frequency of that tool, right? So this is an expression of what happens when we lay the tools at the youth feet. We teach them and train them, and they happen to be trained as well in this house of creative wonder, right? I'm sitting in a 3,800 square foot creative laboratory with a music studio, fashion lab, 3D design center, painting area. So they're trained in creativity and now trained in consciousness. And when you put the two together, now they're creating their own story of how to teach consciousness. So how do we know that it'll be resonant with the next generation? It was made by them. This was co-created with them. So that's how we know. And the proof bears out in the efficacy of our program. And, if anybody comes to our program, they'll look around, and outside of the new couple students, you'll see a student body that 95% of them are the conscious, aware observers of their thoughts that also have a relationship to a higher power of their own understanding. And the combination of those two gives off a certain vibe right? A
Yes.
very awake, aware, present, spirited, inspired, soulful vibe. So please, if anybody is listening is ever in the LA area, maybe you're flying through LAX and you've got a layover. We're 22 minutes away from the airport. Come on down to Hermosa Beach and witness for yourself what it looks like for dozens of young creatives who are conscious to be hanging around, helping each other, supporting each other, painting with each other, playing music together, and just being fun, free, and disconnected from this shackle and chain of the phone.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because as I read through the book, I was thinking, some of this feels like some of the other social emotional learning tools that I use with students in the elementary and high
It's
school that
based
I
from
worked
them.
in.
Yes.
And it's based in it. And I was going to ask you today, well, what makes it different? But I think you just explained to me what that was, the infusion of the students' input into it changes how it is going to be perceived by them.
Yeah. Creativity has given me this amazing life where I've gotten to travel the world shooting photography and just design snowboards, design skateboards, design fashion lines, all these amazing things. And so with this creative background, when I started learning, cognitive behavior therapy, for example, and getting these CBT workshops going, okay, there's got to be another way to communicate this.
Yeah.
Right. And bless their hearts, I'm not trying to bag on anybody or any of the professors or anybody who created these programs. They're amazing. They're valuable. Thank you. And if we're able to take all of those great teachings, practices, programs, principles, processes, take them, give them to young creatives so they can reimagine them in a way that's resonant and native to them, that will give us the best opportunity of creating programs and materials that they really vibe and that they understand and that feel, all of this stuff doesn't have to feel like academia jargon. In fact, quite the opposite. Like people helping people is the oldest form of, service and occupation. And so it doesn't need to be firewalled behind a break glass and emergency, therapy wall or whatever it is. Right. And once again, therapy and therapists have made such a big impact in my life, particularly trauma therapists. So I'm not being negative towards therapy in general. But the average person, when their kid is struggling, goes, I don't know, should we send them to therapy? That's just where their mind goes. And humans having wisdom and tools to share with each other is bigger, broader, and more ancient and pervasive than just that sole industry of therapists.
Absolutely. And even as a clinician myself, I do agree that there are bits and pieces that therapy or general talk therapy cannot address on its own. More specifically with our youth, again, who are used to different forms of mental stimulation. They aren't sitting and talking is not necessarily going to do it with young people in all spaces. Not taking away from its importance or usefulness, helpfulness.
That's right. Not taking away from it. If you can imagine a kid is sitting there, this kid is sitting there because things have not gone well and their parents want them to be there. And now, broad strokes, this is in every case. And so now generally many times the kid is sitting there in a defensive state going, what do I have to say to get out of here? And if the stuff I'm saying, they're going to relay back to my parents. And that's a completely different ego-based, defensive mental state than the soulful, safe space of being in the creative flow, right? And so when the students come here for 90 minutes after school, they do 30 minutes of what we call Jedi mind training, right? Craft, right? And then they spend an hour being, creatively wild and free and going and playing the drums and then sewing and then painting and then spray painting. And it's in that creative space of being soulfully present that the teen mentors that they're paired with have the opportunity to begin talking and getting in deeper, deeper about today's lesson and today's tool, how things are going. Oh, you and that friend ended up doing it, whatever it was, creating the space to go deeper. And if we think about a 12-year-old, when they're in talk therapy, their state of being, trying to get the right words versus that same 12-year-old, and they're painting alongside a 17-year-old, and they're painting together, catching up about stuff. There creates a space by which we can get to a deeper sense of connectedness to the soul. Absolutely. And if thoughts are the language of the mind, emotions are the language of the body, then art is the language of the soul. And so whenever I'm doing art in any level, it could be painting, photography, it could be cooking, it could be gardening. Anytime I'm doing any act with repetition and practice, a little bit of creativity, it can become an art form. The reason why this is such a valuable notion is, one, art is greatly misunderstood, which is why it ends up being cut from schools. But secondly, if art is the language of the soul, then if I'm doing any level of art, I'm soulfully present. Well, then that means if I begin making walking my dog an art form, the way I write this report in art form, doing the dishes in art form, I am then learning to bring soulfulness into my everyday life, into these consistent existence structures of the practicality of just going through reality. If I can bring my soul into that, that becomes a different experience. And I'll be darned if, when I'm soulfully present, if a lot of the mental obsessions and mental issues seem to dissipate because I'm in another state of consciousness that isn't mentalized, and instead I'm in my heart.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Most of us spend more time at work than anywhere else doing anything else. So why not spend that time in a job you love? Introducing Triad's Jobs Marketplace, the only job site dedicated specifically to behavioral and mental health professionals. Featuring more than 1,000 open jobs from dozens of behavioral and mental health employers, and searchable by location, professional field, employment type, specialization, and more. Jobs Marketplace helps you find your next career opportunity. Full-time, part-time, or gig time, make the most of your time. To access Jobs Marketplace, register for your free professional account at hellotriad.com/BHT. That's hellotriad.com/BHT, and then click to Jobs Marketplace. If you're already a member of the Triad community, visit app.hellotriad.com/jobs. That's app.hellotriad.com/jobs. Visit us today and take your next career step tomorrow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've shown us and talked a bit about your book, Fundamental Life Tools. And so I want to dig a bit deeper into that. Can you walk us through those 7 fundamental tools in your curriculum?
I would love to. Thank you for asking.
Tell me why they matter.
Okay. Goodness gracious. Okay. So now how these came about is during the pandemic, in my conversations with great therapists, psychologists, sponsor, executive coach, shaman, spiritual leaders, collect all of them and continue to have this dialogue of, we could only have a toolkit of 7 tools. What would they be? And the thing is that there's so many, dozens, hundreds. But the challenge is, if I bring a kid 22 tools, that's overwhelming, and they'll spend their energy trying to memorize it. So 7 is a small enough number where they no longer have to memorize it. They can just become it, right? And so the tools are, 1, awareness, a la Eckhart Tolle or mindfulness, to be the aware observer of my thoughts, to know that I am not my thoughts. I am the one watching my thoughts, having the thoughts, and that my thoughts are like programs, a program that I don't have to obey or fight or struggle with, but instead I can change, transform, and guide. This is the seat of power. If all the rest of the apps are like, or all the rest of the tools are like apps, then this is the on-off button, awareness. Next, once they get on board and now they're watching their thoughts with more clarity, it's acceptance. Acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. If I'm upset or dysregulated or struggling, it's probably because I find some person, place, or thing unacceptable, and I can't get back to a feeling of calm and serenity until I accept reality as it is. So once they become awake, then giving them right away the tool of acceptance to ease the struggle and cacophony and the anxiety of my thoughts, particularly when I become even more aware of all of them. So acceptance is second. Third, intention. Intention, very Joe Dispenza, NLP, very visualization. You know, a lot of the parents who come here, they're like, "Oh, you guys are like Joe Dispenza for kids," right? There's a lot of parents who follow him and for which this program is very resonant. So we teach, not only about having intentions, of course, but also visualizations, the power of visualizations, having visualization in a 3D holographic sense with sight, smell, touch, feel, fusing it with heart energy as if it's already happening in first person in real time. And then on top of that is just knowing what I want in the world and in my life and in today. How in the world am I supposed to hit the bullseye of what I want if I don't even know what I'm shooting for?
Yeah.
Go ask the average person out there, what do you want? What's your vision? They're like, oh, what do you mean? Like a New Year's resolution? For real. I know this answer because I'm out there having this conversation a bunch, realizing most people don't know what they want. And if they do know what they want, they don't feel like it would be okay for them to go try and get it, whether from not enoughness or it's just not possible, but you don't understand a million different reasons as to why they can't just go begin reaching for their visions, hopes, and dreams. So we figure, let's start training our youth now about the power of having intention, not just for the, I want to become an astronaut or a teacher, but also for the, I want to have a good day. I want to struggle less. I want to smile really easily. I want to see the best in my seat partner instead of get irritated by them, right? So awareness, acceptance, intention, gratitude. Woo-wee. One of my favorite quotes on gratitude is, no amount of regret changes the past. No amount of anxiety changes the future. But any amount of gratitude changes the present. That's a quote by Ann Voskamp, and I feel that, and I remind myself of that truth every single day. So gratitude, we call it G-flipping, right? Flipping a lens of gratitude. I hate English homework. I am grateful I have a free education, a teacher who cares about me, and that I'm going to try to go to college. I need to know this stuff. I like learning. The earlier I'm done, the earlier I can go play with my friends. That second one is going to create a completely different energy and vibe and attitude. And if making a shift in my thought forms can make a significant shift, maybe let's say 40% of my experience that day doing homework, then is it not worth it? And this is the question we pose to these high schoolers that all raise their hand and be like, yeah, it's way worth it. I'm like, hey, have you tried? They're like, yeah, I do it all the time. And that's when the younger kids watching them in class can then know for themselves, yeah, this stuff works, right? Reaching for these tools work. And I think that's part of the challenge with, let's say, SEL in the classroom, is that there isn't, let's just say, like a cultural component, a social cultural component of seeing the cool high schoolers with the cool earrings and the necklaces and all the jewelry and stuff, right? The jersey, like they get it. They're doing it. They're with it. Their life has changed because of it. And they're emanating this aura of charisma because they have the confidence and courage from these tools of consciousness. That's really appealing. So creating this cultural component is part of why art is the seed and the vehicle by which this mission of consciousness. The mission, by the way, we have this goal, 1 million conscious youth. That's our mission here, right? 1 million conscious youth. Conscious is defined as someone who is the aware observer of their thoughts. How different would our world be if we had a group of 1 million conscious youth that could be activated as a student body for uplift? Yeah, I'm excited to see that day. That day is coming. But in the interim, we're going to keep teaching them these tools, keep teaching them how to teach these tools to others, and having them show each other through their lived experience how doing that service. There's probably no greater thing I could do for my own mental health than to serve, thinking of others, spreading these tools of consciousness. Because if I can give it away to others, that means I have it. So that's the fourth tool, gratitude. So awareness, acceptance, intention, gratitude, compassion, which is what we're teaching today in class later on, kindness and tenderness, right? Instead of being judgmental. Sixth tool we teach about is forgiveness. We teach about resentment. We teach about the resentment of reliving that thing over and over again, drinking the poison as if we're expecting the other person to die, when instead we're just tormenting ourselves, not realizing what we're doing, thinking we're justified in these thoughts of pain, which we are. But there becomes a time in which I no longer want to feel that way. And when that time comes, and I no longer want to continue to suffer with resentment, then forgiveness is the tool for me. And forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood. It's not about apologizing to the other person or having them apologize back. It's an inside job. And forgiveness for me is about me and myself and letting go of that pain and that poison. Doesn't mean I let the person off the hook. It means I'm making the conscious and aware decision that I can move forward without still carrying that weight. And lastly, connection. Connection. And Johan Corey's TEDx talk, said the opposite of addiction isn't abstinence, it's connection. And, as someone in recovery, I see how connection and service is the lifeblood of fellowship and community. And so we teach connection. We have them draw a pyramid, and then the base of the pyramid is connection to ourselves and to our own souls. How? If art is the language of the soul, then any art form becomes a connection pathway back to my own soul. So through art and creativity, through sports, through anything that brings me into the present moment, journaling, connection to self. We also teach connection to others as another one of the cornerstones, the base of the pyramid, and connection to others in service. I used to think service was some big, huge, service can be as small and easy as just thinking about somebody else instead of thinking about myself. My goodness gracious, what a fundamental and simple and available opportunity. Additionally, on the base of the triangle, the pyramid, connection to self and soul, connection to others and service, connection to nature, and connection to beauty. And those lead up to the top of the pyramid, which we teach is connection to a higher power of your own understanding. Now, this is a big concept. In fact, I think technically the biggest concept. I don't know that there can be anything bigger than this concept.
Yeah.
And so many youth and people don't feel comfortable saying the word God, right? And so it's important. And I was one of those. I was one of those that just didn't really feel comfortable until I was invited to have a higher power of my own understanding. And I said, wait a minute. So like the science and the moon and the stars and the laws of gravity and physics and math and that amazingness that explains or creates a way of understanding this incredibly inspiring, awe-inspiring universe, I can call that my higher power? Yeah, totally. Oh, well, geez. Okay. Well, yeah, I totally have a higher power then. I mean, okay, now you want me to connect to it? Yeah, I think I could do that. And being able to call it my higher power, then put it in a position where I could begin connecting to it and drawing strength from it, drawing faith from it, drawing purpose from it, drawing support from it. Being able to say, thy will be done when something catastrophic has happened so that I can have enough space to not have to make that judgment that everything is terrible. And maybe, just maybe, there's a higher something else playing out here. And holding that space, if anything, creates support for me in real time in this living, breathing moment. Those are the spiritual tools available to me that if I don't have a higher power of my own understanding, aren't quite accessible. And so there's an entire generation and tens of millions of youth that feel very comfortable with science, but maybe not so comfortable with God. Maybe just because they didn't hear their parents saying it in their households. They're like, I don't know, I guess it's not for me. It wasn't around in my household. That's not their fault. So we lay this concept at their feet and then we say, cool, you're not going to know what I think, actually. Let's hear what you think. And so they start raising their hand and filling the whiteboard with God. Okay, well, 4.2 billion people of the Abrahamic faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam will say God. Okay, put that up on the whiteboard. What else? Mother Earth, Father Sky, divine oneness, universe with a capital U, cause and effect, karma, love, science. Okay, hold up, science. Who here believes in science? Everyone raises their hand. Who here believes science is a power greater than you? Everyone else raises their other hand. Okay. So now every single person in this room is all present and connected to a higher power of their own understanding. Ain't that a thing? And then we close our eyes. We have them place their hands on their heart, because if I touch my elbow, my awareness and attention goes to my elbow. If I place my hands on my heart, my attention and energy goes to my heart. And I place my hands on my heart, and we all close our eyes. We breathe, and I say, okay, now use your imagination. Have fun with this. Use your imagination. Who here thinks that maybe they can feel this connection to their higher power through their heart? And sure enough, maybe 75, 85 seconds through it, some of the kids start doing this like Stevie Wonder type dance, gliding back and forth. And then I say on the count of 3, open your eyes before you move. Who here feels even just a little bit different than they did 90 seconds ago? And in silence and grace, they look around like, yeah, I don't know what it is I'm feeling, but I'm feeling something right now. And that is a gift that we can give to this next generation, even in public schools, by teaching it this way and not having it be taught as God, where we're dictating them what to think. And so this program is now California state accepted English curriculum. I'm teaching this at a local high school.
Congratulations.
And these kids are getting English credit for it, right? And it's great. It's a high school dedicated to the foster youth of our community. So it's an amazing experience. And there are many of the youth that have co-created this program and this book, right? That's where it's been workshopped for the last 3 years, one of the places. And so we see the effect and the impact for high school English, instead of them reading Lord of the Flies still. You know that they are still, my daughter is still reading Lord of the Flies, Catcher in the Rye, To Kill a Mockingbird. Bro.
Yeah.
You telling me in the last 30 years we have not evolved what the best of the best that we could possibly conjure putting in front of our kids is? Seriously, that's lazy. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's lazy.
Or you have some school, I mean, I'm in the South, so you have the banned books, so we won't get into that. So when many of those are even cut out that you were just listed. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So let's instead give them something that they can grow from. Something where when they're doing their homework, they're writing their essay about awareness, or they're writing their essay about intention and what they really hope to achieve in their life, or they write their essay on this act of forgiveness they're going to do that they're doing right now. They didn't realize they were holding on to this pain, but now they can forgive it because they want to forgive it. This is people becoming somebody in the process of writing, not just writing about some random book that we're straining ourselves to explain away as to its deep significance. This is clear as day. When a person becomes awakened, on board with tools, and connected to a higher power of their own understanding, that is a transformational journey that has a beginning, middle, end that we can effectively initiate with our program. And that's why we're so excited that beyond LA and South Bay, we're taking this show on the road. We're transforming Resin into a consciousness broadcast center. And we're launching an app and a whole program and online next year so that everybody can gain access to not only these tools, get certified in the tools, but also access sharing circles over Zoom, right? This is a big part of the sharing circles we call it wisdom seekers. It's a big part of this community and how to make this grow. It's one thing to have the tools, but then we need community to commune with each other and talk about how things are going and share how I'm using the tools and what new tool I have beyond these 7, the myriad of them. Sharing with each other in circle is the oldest social technology of humankind. And back when we were in a cave around the fire, sitting in a circle, our shoulders pointing inwards at each other. And then we evolved to be in a living room 200 years ago, our shoulders pointing inward in the room towards each other. And then 100 years ago, the television was made. And all of a sudden, it's all of us turning our shoulders to one wall. And then this phone happened. And now we're not even in the same room. So never has there been a more important time to reinitiate the strength and meaning of circle. We want to dimensionalize circle so much we call it sphere. Goodness gracious, like there is room for all of us to explore the power of circle in its many, many different ways of doing it so that it's interesting, fun, accessible, and more socially centered than it is right now. Right now, it's like, oh, you're part of a help group or you're part of therapy. Let's make it so that having a circle is like kicking around a hacky sack. Like, let's make it so that there's a social structure for like, oh man, the 6 of us got 20 minutes. Let's go hit it real quick. Let's go hit a circle real quick. We'll be better off as a human species because of it.
Agreed. And I know that the focus of Indivisible Arts and your book are on teens and young people, but just listening to these 7 tools, I think all humans could really use this. Again, I am over 40 at this point, and many of these tools are things that I can do better at. And so is there space for or utilization of the book and the upcoming tools? Can they be shared or used by others? Not just teens, young people?
So Sharlee, maybe you can help me with this because I truly struggle with this one because these tools are universal. These tools are timeless. They are not bound by age or any of that. They're just not. We're focusing on teaching them to youth for a handful of reasons. One is in our limited interfacing time, we don't have to take the time undoing the old wiring.
Good point.
To a 45-year-old learning for the first time that they're not their thoughts, they're the observer. They're like, wait, huh? It takes a second for that one to take hold. So that's part one. Part two, there's a sense of innocence and generation to generation honor code that I feel exists on behalf of our generation, giving to the next one. Maybe there's an element of that. Thirdly, they're organized, meaning there's 17.8 million high schoolers in the United States, and we know where to find them. We can get email lists to all of the counselors to let them know they should go to this website where they can get certified with these tools that will look terrific on their college transcript and their work resume, saying that they're certified in fundamental life tools, mental and emotional health tools to be able to bring to their dorms, campus, and workplace. Can't help but think that that will read well. And so because of those factors, youth are where we're starting. The truth is, to see real change, this is about family, right? And so maybe the play is we continue to embrace being the unique consciousness leader in the youth space, because that's a space that we can, I don't want to say own, but a space that we can really wrap our hands around and really stand out in that space. And then as the youth are learning, we build strategically into our delivery system the way for it naturally to be like, oh, your kid is listening to this. Hey, parent, if you want to learn this, here's the easy way to do it, right? Gotcha. And embrace the family system through the youth as the inroad. I believe that's our strategy as of right now, but who knows? I could learn something tomorrow that totally changes my perspective, and then we'll figure out how to continue to iteratively pivot.
I mean, it makes complete sense. It is always interesting to me when my 12-year-old brings me something new and I'm like, oh, well, tell me more about that. Can you teach that to me too? Like, what are you doing? Where'd you learn that at? Where is this? Show me.
You know what?
Oh,
thank you. Yeah. I just took a mental image of a movie of you just saying that, because I really felt that. And you're so right. When my daughter comes home and is teaching me some cool stuff, that totally lights me up.
It does. It absolutely does.
So let's become deeply skilled at that transaction of student comes home with something worth sharing with their parents. Thank you. That's absolutely great.
Yeah. Changes.
I feel that.
Is this like, wow, you're into something that's not like on the internet or YouTube? Tell me all about it.
It's on paper.
All the things. What? Yes. Somebody told this to you? It makes sense. Yeah. So I love that. It's inspiring to me that it can start like a lesson can start at school.
That's right.
And it comes into the home and change not just my child's life, but mine too.
That's right. Spreading like a positive intellectual contagion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Rafael, I mean, I really could talk to you forever, but so for our listeners who want to learn more about you, Indivisible
Yes.
Arts or Fundamental Life Tools, where should they go? Where can we go to learn more?
Sure. And I'm sure we'll put the all of this in writing in the notes of the show, which I appreciate. Thank you. For the organization, we'll start with that. That's indivisiblearts.org, as in indivisible with liberty and justice for all, like cannot be divided. So divisible with an I and an N in front. Indivisiblearts.org. And there you'll learn more about our programs, but also see where you can either volunteer or donate to help support the cause. Because as a 501c3 nonprofit, we rely on our grant writing and our donors to be able to continue this mission and this message that we're doing. So we need help. We truly do. Please, if you have any despair, this is a noble cause. And know, with all of me, your support goes straight to the front lines of this mission and helping the youth not only directly and immediately that are in our system. I can tell you at least 7 counts in the last 16 months where either a teen or their parent has said, this program has saved my life, or you have saved my life. Like, we're doing the Lord's work day in, day out here, teaching these tools. And we need the support so we can take this and make it a national thing, make the app, make the website, make it available to everybody. So that's the website, indivisiblearts.org. Secondly, about me, my name is Rafael McMaster.com. I wasn't born with the .com, but you go there for the website. You can find more of my art, my music, me as a human being, a flawed character walking this path, trying to do as much good as possible. And then you can go to Amazon for the Fundamental Life Tools. Okay. And last thing to share. Okay. This summer, how do we know this thing is working? We know it's working because our teens are so inspired. Dozens would spend their summer months building a website that they then called streamofconsciousness.life. And on streamofconsciousness.life, you will see mental and emotional health tools for youth by youth. Videos of them teaching these tools by saying, hey, my name's so-and-so. I overcame, my grandfather having dementia and moving in with us and being mean to me, through the tools of awareness and acceptance and compassion and forgiveness. This is what it was like. This is how I did it. This was like before. This is what it's like now. And we're going to amass an ocean of movies like that, little vignettes, 6 to 12 minutes of teens testifying, telling their story, and explaining how to use these tools so that someone who I will never meet years from now, who's struggling, writhing in bed in the middle of the night because they just got suspended again for vaping and they don't even like vaping. They have no idea why they do it. They have a place to go where they can start learning tools for free. And it's so important it's free because this kid is writhing around in bed with anxiety because he overhears his parents arguing whether or not they can afford the insurance and whether or not this kid is worth it and if he's going to even change from it. And so that pressure is on. A place where they can go to for free and begin learning these tools from other teens who are the same age as them and have the same problems as them. So that's streamofconsciousness.life. You can find the prototype website that they built this summer. This is part of what's going to be in our new app that we're going to release and birth in 2026. It's going to be streamofconsciousness.life. These videos, plus a whole other certification where they can learn it from me, plus a schedule to circles where people can jump into circle in different circles, plus the videos for 1 million conscious youth. Once a youth becomes conscious or begins practicing it, no one's conscious on the time. You go in and out. It is, but being the aware observer, they shoot a video. Hey, my name is so-and-so. I know I'm conscious because I practice the tool of awareness. This is what it's like watching my thoughts. This is what it was like before. This is what it's like now. And you can go online now onto streamofconsciousness.life, and there's a tab, and you can see dozens of these videos of teens explaining how they know they're conscious, that they're awake and they're aware. So we're looking to get that number up to 1 million. That's our goal, particularly with this launch of this new app, where it's going to be this pathway to 1 million conscious youth, the streamofconsciousness.life videos, and getting certified in the fundamental life tools. That's what we're doing.
Awesome. Well, Rafael, I cannot wait to see the evolution of the movement. Watch it, come across. Let's get it to the South. Let's get it across the country here. And I really have appreciated you speaking with us today.
Thank you so much, Sharlee. I really, really appreciate it. Those were great questions. To the viewers out there, please go to our website. Please follow that little urge. Do it. You'll be glad you did, and I'll see you there.
And thank you to our listeners for taking the time to join us. Make sure to follow us on our social media at Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and more at Behavioral Health Today. And if you like our show, give us 5 stars and leave us a review. As always, the resources for this episode and an archive of all of our other episodes can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/BHT. And we look forward to having you back with us next time on Behavioral Health Today.
We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Triad Behavioral Health Network, all rights reserved.